All right, we have two special guests in studio with us today talking about saving your life. I might fix your business, I might help your marriage, but these people are actually saving your very life. Renee and Gary Tunsky. Let's talk a little bit about health itself, though, because Gary, you give a talk about cells, why cells are so important, how it links to everything. So, go.
Pretty much the common denominator of all 12,000 plus disease labels, if you look back at the nuts and bolts, the bricks and mortar, the scaffolding, or the composition of a human, it's 243 different types of cells. So cells form the tissues, and then tissues form the organs form the systems, and then the systems form the body. So if you look back in hierarchy of power, it's cellular factors that are causing the illness, what I call a CFD, a cellular functional disorder. So anytime you talk about a disease label, they're just talking about the symptoms of a cellular scream or a cry. A CFD for, like, say, diabetes would be a beta cell malfunction. If you're talking about anemia, it's a red blood cell malfunction. If you're talking about leukemia, it's a white blood cell malfunction. If you're talking about acid reflux, it's a parietal cell malfunction. If you're talking about Parkinson's, it's a substantia nigra cell malfunction in the brain that produces dopamine. So if you know that simplicity of that unified theory, if you can clean up the cells and restore the cells, there's your answer. And the symptoms of dis-ease or disorders disappear once you fix the cellular malfunctions. And it's interesting, there is no pharmaceutical, there's no chemotherapy cocktail, there's no radiation, there's no procedure in medical science that can fix a cellular malfunction. That's the problem. There's no cellular treatments in medical school.
But the great thing about this is, though, there's hope. And, you know, we were talking yesterday, I was watching you work with some clients, and we were talking yesterday about how you really don't see heart cancer. Mm-hmm. Why?
You know, they say in med school that oxygen fuels the fire of tumors, and what they're doing is looking initially at the initial exposure of oxygen to a tumor, and it does swell. Just like if you put oxygen into a fire, the flame swells, and then if you continue the oxygen, it dies down. They're not looking at the longevity of later on, 10 minutes later, the actual tumors would shrink based on oxygen, or what's called ozone therapy, and that's one of the treatments that I use for my clients with cancer. So if that's true, that oxygen fuels the fire of tumors, everyone would have heart cancer. And you'll never, ever see a patient that has heart cancer. It's every other body part you'll see.
That's a great point.
In oncology, they're taught, Josh, that the tumor is the cancer. The tumor is not the cancer. So if you think the tumor, which is a side effect of cancer, is the cancer, and you drug, cut, burn, poison the tumor, you still have cancer. They're separate entities. They're not one and the same.
What do you mean?
The cancer is a process, an incubating process that sometimes 20, 30 years before the tumor pops up. So the tumor is an intelligent cocoon. It's a bubble. So when a mutation starts, one cancer cell splits to 2 to 4 to 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. It's exponential doubling. The body says, whoa, we got a runaway train here. Let's gobble it up. And if the white blood cells are strong, they'll just eat it up like a Pac-Man before it starts. If the white blood cells are chewing on toxins and heavy metals and bacteria and virus, and they can't get over to the tumor formation, that runaway train proliferation starts growing a cancer process, and then it can spread into distant regions. It can spread through the blood or the lymphs. Well, the body's intelligence says, hey, we got a problem here. Let's cocoon it. Let's bubble it up. So it grows a protein wrap called a tumor around the mutated cells and the pustulence and the dried blood and the infection, and it attaches itself to the organ that it's starting in. So that tumor is an intelligent survival mechanism. It's not the problem. Now they go and poke at it with a biopsy.
Yeah, this doesn't make sense.
So like the very thing the body's trying to do to protect you, they go and poke at it and they spill the cancer cells back into your blood and lymph. Now you really have trouble. You have a secondary tumor growing somewhere else, or a metastatic spread called metastasis, but the patients think, well, that's just another cancer. It's the same cancer process they just started into another tumor formation.
That'd be like popping a water balloon to see if there's water in there and then getting upset because you got wet.
Right. So the cancer is the carcinogens that patients been eating and drinking and injecting and vaccines and breathing and putting on their skin, rubbing in their scalp with shampoos and conditioners and toxic food and the beverages. And it's compounding. You know, it's every day, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, that the toxins come in, and the liver, the kidneys, the lymphatics can't keep up with the toxic overload. So the blood loads up with all these carcinogens and poisons and acids and heavy metals, and the blood has to clear itself, and it'll dump it in a weakest link in the chain of organs, your path of least resistance. So everyone has a weak organ or tissue where the blood chooses to dump through the path of least resistance these carcinogens and poisons, and eventually they suffocate the cells, and they get inside and they damage the DNA. So the mutations start with one cancer cell split to 2 to 4 to 8, 16, and so forth. But the cancer disease is the carcinogens in the body. The cancer disease itself is acid pH. The cancer disease is immunosuppression. The cancer disease is nutritional deficiencies, up to 10 different categories of nutrition. The cancer is a blood flow problem. The cancer is a lack of oxygen problem. The cancer is a stress problem. There's an emotional component to cancer process. There's a spiritual component to cancer process. So we have to ask ourselves, hey doc, what do you have to treat my cancer? I know you're going to drug, cut, burn, poison my tumor, but what do you have to treat my cancer? And they have no treatments for cancer.
And even there, you were talking about how there's more effective ways to remove the tumor, too.
Absolutely. You know, the blood is water. It carries current. You can use Rife frequency, sound wave, just like a wine glass can be shattered by a singer's voice. As long as you match the resonant of the glass with the pitch of the voice, it shatters like the Memorex commercial. So the blood can carry the current to the tumor site and shatter it one layer at a time, like peeling an onion. And then the dead necrotic pieces are picked up by the blood or the lymphatics and carried out slowly through the urine, through the skin, through sweat, or the colon. You can use heat, far infrared heat, and heat them to death. It's interesting. Tumors are very electrical. They're highly conductive.
Okay.
So the tissue right next to it that's healthy is porous. It sweats. So you can get into a far infrared heat chamber and heat the tumor to 118 degrees, but because of the sweating mechanism, like a radiator in a car, the core temperature stays to a slight fever of 102. Well, in 102 degrees, the body thinks you got the fever, or the yellow fever or the flu.
Sure.
So it kicks up the white blood cell counts to the blood to somehow look for this yellow fever that you induced through heat, and it's fooled. And then those white blood cells migrate to the tumor site eventually. You can and then you sweat profusely to get the carcinogens out, and it increases circulation to the tumor site. You can choke the blood supply so they can't feed because they grow their own blood supply. You can ozonate a tumor to death with oxygen and what's called O3 or ozone gas. You can juice them to death with green juices. That's the Gerson therapy. So there's many treatments you can do to isolate or to target the tumor sites with no destruction of vital organs or no destruction to neighboring tissue. Well, what's the common denominator between, let's say, arthritis, diabetes, heart disease, lupus, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's? They're all cellular functional disorders. It's all cellular. So when the cells malfunction, you malfunction. And the body's intelligence gives off a symptom or sets of symptoms telling you which cell is malfunctioning. So you in a arthritis, let's say arthritis, the cell malfunction in the joint is called a synovial fluid cell malfunction, and the symptoms would be in pain and inflammation. Well, an MD would look at the pain and inflammation as a disease. I would say it's a cellular malfunction due to the synovial fluid producing cells or the bursa fluid that's malfunctioning. You get a dryness in the joint, you get an immune response at the joint level, and you get a swelling and pain as a cause of that, as a symptom. If you have a heart cell malfunction, you're going to have arrhythmias and murmurs and palpitations and angina pain telling you that. If you have a red blood cell malfunction, you're going to be tired and lethargic, and it's going to be called anemia. If you have a white blood cell malfunction, you're going to have trouble with carrying oxygen to the blood, called leukemia. So it's a trash can label, what I call techno jargon, doctrinese language, that they're using Latin language to describe the symptoms, not the disease.
And really, all of these things are, like you said, really the same thing. Whether it's heart disease or gout or arthritis, it's all really a cellular malfunction in your weakest link.
And it's due to two causes: compounding toxicities and compounding insufficiencies to the cells. You know, all of pharmaceutical compounds there's no building material in them to fix a sick cell. So in a dialogue and conversation, a drug comes in that you're taking, let's say for a murmur, like an arrhythmia in the heart. The heart cells look at that drug, like the digoxin or metoprolol, whatever you're taking, and it says, hey, what do you have in you that I can use? Where's your oxygen drug? Where's your water that I need? Where's your vitamins I need? I need 16 vitamins. I need up to 72 minerals and electrolytes to pump the heart. I need essential fatty acids, the good fats for my cell membrane. Where is your antioxidants I need? Where is your chlorophyll? Where's your photon light that I need for health, to reestablish cell restoration to my cells? And the dialogue is the drugs looks at the heart cell and says, I have nothing for you. I'm just synthetic chemistry, but I'm going to manipulate you. I'm going to dam up your receptors. I'm going to shut you up with your scream, with your angina pain or your arrhythmia murmur, and I'll manipulate your heart rhythm, but I'm going to make you sicker while I manipulate the cellular scream, the cry.
So it all comes down to cells.
Absolutely.
Cells.
Absolutely.
So how do we fix that then? I mean, we have this segment and one more. So how do we start to fix this problem?
We have to detoxify. We have to clean up the cells. And once you clean the cells up and strip the biofilm and the junk in the trunk and the crud out of the blood and get all the cell membranes clean and open, now they're ready to receive the intelligent nutrient. They're not blocked. So whatever herb you use or vitamin or mineral or even a good diet, it's allowed to enter through the cell membrane. But if you leave yourself toxic and sludges around the cell, I don't care how well you're eating, I don't care how high-tech your nutrients are, it knocks on the door of the membrane of the cell and says, I can't get in there to help you.
Clean first, then nutrition.
Right. And then you get expensive urine is what you're getting.
Right. I mean, what's really the best way to clean house?
Yeah, well, I developed a 21-day cellular cleanse, but in order to reach the cells, it's like peeling an onion. A first week of an intensive cleanse that's comprehensive is only blood and lymph fluid cleansing. You're not going to get deeper than that. Then the second week is organ tissue level. Then the third week is cellular. It's like peeling an onion. So if you're having a 3-day cleanse, a 5-day, a 7-day, a 10-day, 12 or 14 or less, you're barely getting to tissue. You're stopping. So you're going to feel better, but you're not getting to cellular level. And then, so we have to start with the filter systems. You know, you have to start with the colon and find a way to clean up the colon. You have to clean up the liver. That's your filter for the blood. You have to clean up your kidneys. We have to clean up the lymphatic nodes, the lymph stations. We have to clean up the blood. That's the life of the flesh is in the blood. So if life is in the blood, death and disease is in the blood. That's your river.
It's a raw food diet for the 21 days, not just juicing, 2 juices a day for the 21 days, but you can have salads and nuts and seeds and fruits, but it is the live enzymes that you want to cleanse the cells. So you're juicing to allow the organs to rest and just cleanse, and then you're feeding them the nutrition, the leaves of the trees to have, to help them heal.
Sure. I just want to say thank you to them for joining us today. May your path lead to heaven, and may freedom follow in your footsteps.